What's good, family? So, part 3 of our lecture series, Math and Science and Slavery. Alright, so we're going to continue from where we left off from. I ain't gonna lie, I'm having a pretty fun time doing this, y'all. It's my first time getting into this, like, PowerPoint and stuff like that, man. It's pretty cool, you know. I'm a tech geek at heart, so this is what's up. I'm digging this a lot. So, without further ado, let's get right back into it. We'll proceed further. So let's go. Now, just to get you guys a little bit familiar, well, you guys should be familiar with these. These are all driver's licenses, all right? They're all driver's licenses from different states, all right, different areas, different territories, but they all generally say the same thing, which is absolutely nothing in regards to human beings. For one, since you went over the fact that all states are pretty much the children of the United States, okay, and the United States mama is at the District of Columbia, and from the District of Columbia, the mama had babies, 50 babies, which were all 50 states, and they're all under the jurisdiction of the United States. And the similarities between all these state licenses is that they're all referring to a capital name, all caps, all right? When you dig I'm sorry, let me go back. Now, when we go into these instruments, this is pretty cool because I can make some edits on the fly. Check this right here. Oh, that didn't work out the way I wanted it to either. Well, anyway, let's just continue forward. All right, the name's in all caps, and you can pull out your own license right now if you have a license or state ID in your pocket. Pull it out right now. All right, and look at it while I'm talking. You know what I'm saying? And you'll see that the name is in all caps. All right, it'll tell you the gender, height, blah, 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 eye color, license type, whatever. But when it gets to ethnicity or race, it gets kind of weird. And in some states, they don't even enlist ethnicity or race. But the one thing that they all have in common is that they all have an expiration date. Now, unless the government is psychic, or the pirates pretending to be government are psychic, how can they tell you when you're going to expire? If that's really you on the license. You understand what I'm saying? So when the card expires, does that mean that the living soul expired, the human being expired? No. So what this is a contract. And how do you know it's a contract? Because it requires what? A autograph or signature on it. Okay? But it doesn't refer to anyone's ethnicity or race. Alright? It doesn't say anything like that. Okay? And I'm even showing you District of Columbia driver's license. They all have the same principles. They're not referring to human beings. Alright? I hope you're looking at your own license right now, or your own state identification card. Alright, they all belong to the District of Columbia. Okay, and just something you should know for checks and balance purposes. If you have a checkbook, or if you have a money order, or any type of thing, money grant, whatever it is, that, you know, any of these type of financial instruments here. Alright, wherever you think that the signature line is, look at the end of it and see if there isn't a little abbreviation of MP, which is for microprint. And when it comes down to microprint, it's pretty much really tiny. The printing is really tiny. So this is why a lot of times you hear sayings such as read the fine print. This would be the finest of the print. All right, microprinting. Now, if you were to grab a magnifying glass and look down on it, you'll see that it says authorized signature only, and that is being said over and over. So this whole little line here is authorized signature only, authorized signature only, authorized signature only. And the reason why it's saying authorized signature only is because the human being signing here is authorizing that this instrument is valid. You're giving this instrument authorization. Okay? And whatever entity is being used, Michael or Lisa Smith, okay? It still would be the same type of entity you find on the license with the name Thomas Alexander. So let's just say this here said Thomas Alexander, all right, which is the name of the account he would open up at the bank. Okay? This would be authorized signature only. Why? Because though he's not conscious of it, okay, and not consciously aware that the United States is a company, and that the card that he's using is not his actual ID, okay, that it belongs to the corporate state, then he would be conscious of the fact that when he signs his line here, he is the authorized representative for Thomas Alexander in all caps, because he has information in regards to it. You understand what I'm saying? The entity was created based off his existence. However, that entity, though created off of his existence, wasn't created by him, nor was it created in his jurisdiction. Okay? This shit for him was created in a foreign land called the United States. It wasn't created to him in an indigenous jurisdiction. Okay? So he's not aware that he's the authorized representative for Thomas Alexander. And as such, when he signs checks, he's signing as an authorized representative, thus an authorized signature only. Meaning if any other person besides Thomas Alexander signs for Thomas Alexander on this check, that's fraud. Even though the whole system is fraud, that's fraud on top of fraud. And then they're liable to go to jail for committing fraud on top of fraud. You see how crazy this shit gets? The system wasn't meant for us to win, y'all. And that goes for the same when it comes to credit cards. You'll see it's all caps. When you get things in the mail, it's in all caps. All right? Social Security, all caps. Social Security is linked to this here. Contract, this is a contract. Social Security is another contract. This right here is not money. You see what it says here? This note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. It's legal tender for all debts, public and private. Now here's the first question you'd have to ask. Besides the obvious that this is a piece of paper, right? Right? We identify this as a dot. But in actuality, this is nothing more than just a piece of paper. What gives this piece of paper power is our faith, as in the faith of the people that this has value. Now the second question would be, if this has value, what is the thing that is giving it value? That the people are putting their faith in. Because we're not supposed to be putting our faith in just the paper. We're supposed to be putting our faith in the thing that backs up the paper. You understand what I'm saying? Put it like this. If you buy a car, that car serves no purpose unless there's a human being who can drive it. A consciousness behind it. So it's not the car. You know what I'm saying? When people are traveling on the road, they'll never say that, you know, and they get into a collision with someone else. They'll never say that the car got into an accident.
Yo, what happened? I got into an accident. I got into an accident, not the car. I got into an accident. Because I'm the one controlling the car. The car at that point is an extension of me. So if anything happens, it happened to me. I caused it. You understand? So these things are all tricks and games, man. This is not money. Real money is gold and silver. I haven't seen no gold and silver. All right? In all my years growing up, all I've seen is this thing here that people are thinking is money. But it's not. All right? So we gotta break out of that spell. Got to. Now, hey, I'm giving you guys things to look up. All right? These are things you guys need to start to get a little bit familiar with. All right, Treaty of Peace and Friendship. All right, and the Constitution for the United States Republic of North America, 1791. You understand what I'm saying? So check that out. As you can see here, these are the insignias on the dollar. All right, this representing the U.S. corporate state. This representing the organic Aboriginal government that's giving this entity authority to do business on the indigenous land of this entity. You understand? And this flag right here represents the U.S. Continental Congress, which was the Congress in place before United States was established in 1871. So George Washington wasn't the first president. There were at least 9 presidents during the formation of the Continental Congress, which existed before the actual United States. All right? So George Washington is not the first president. He's really the 9th president. He's the first president for the democracy, okay? But he is not the first president of the United States of America. Gotta get up on treaty, all right? Our treaty rights are our rights to the land, the rights that our ancestors left us. Now I know what you're gonna say. These motherfucking Europeans do not honor their treaties. Cool, but that don't mean we drop to their level. Because guess what? They're using contracts to fool us into giving up our energy. They're suing us without us knowing that we're being sued, and we're thinking that it's laws that we're breaking. You get a traffic ticket for quote unquote doing 20 over the speeding limit. Now, did somebody get hurt? Because the policemen had to put emergency lights on to pull you over. So there had to be an emergency. Was there someone hurt? Was there someone in danger? Was the policeman's life threatened? Now, unless you have a contract with that corporation, then that doesn't apply. Because constitutionally, as long as you haven't hurt no one or damaged anyone's property, there is no suit. Okay? But that's when you get into natural law, so that's up to you to study and, try to get into. Because if you don't know your rights, you don't have them. Bottom line, if you don't know your rights, you don't have them. So it's your choice. I choose to know my shit so that when things happen, I can deal with my things like a man. And I don't gotta bark, I don't gotta scream, I don't gotta yell. I just grab a piece of paper and a pen, put my thoughts down on it, send that bitch out, and then I watch mountains get moved. So these are the indigenous peoples. You can find this here in the Mayan temples. These are drawings, all right, ancient Mayan drawings. And this is what the indigenous peoples look like. They ain't look like Europeans, okay? And this is before Columbus, at least 1,000 years before Columbus, quote unquote, discovered America. Move on. Now, we're going to get into a little bit of Constitution. Yeah, it looks long and overbearing, but I'm going to break it down into real simple format, okay? Okay? Real simple format. Real simple format. So, all debts contracted and engagements entered into before the adoption of this Constitution shall be as valid against the United States under this Constitution as under the Confederation. What does that mean? All debts contracted, meaning all contracts, and engagements entered into before the adoption of this Constitution, before it was adopted, shall be as valid, right? So all debts and contracts, meaning the Articles of Confederation, meaning all the treaties, etc., before the adoption of this Constitution is valid against the United States, all right? This Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made, or which shall be made, under the authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land. Let me repeat that. Supreme law of the land. What does that mean? That means our treaties are the supreme law of the land. The constitutions are in place to align and enforce the supreme law of the land. And the judges in every state, not some, not a couple, in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or laws of any state, to the contrary notwithstanding. Now this is a very important line right here that I feel like a lot of people overlook. Anything in the Constitution or laws of any state, by saying, see, because law is specific. So if that meant to just refer to the 50 states, it would have said that the law and the constitutions of all 50 states, you know what I'm saying? It would have said that of all 50 states shall be bound. But it said in every state that the judges, I'm sorry, I missed that thing here. Yeah, go back to this line here. That the constitutional laws of any state. So they're not just saying that the laws of the 50 states. They're saying of any state, meaning state outside of the corporation known as the United States. What type of state exists outside of the corporation of the United States? That would be known as an, let's see here. I don't know, maybe indigenous state, indigenous nation state, aboriginal nation state maybe, a self-autonomous nation state, a state where people of conscious minds and of conscious souls who understand the responsibility of being free have made a sworn oath to each other to uphold each other and move forward and give ourselves what we couldn't give ourselves individually. That's what a nation state's all about. So they gotta respect the laws and constitutions of any state. Alright. The senators and representatives before mentioned and the members of the several state legislatures and all executive and judicial officers, both of the United States and of the several states. They're letting you know that there's a difference between the United States and the several states. The United States company, several states. Republics. Does that make sense? United States, democracy, several states, republic. Does that make sense? Let's continue. And all executive and judicial officers, both of the United States and of the several states, shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution, but no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public trust. Public trust under the United States. So remember, the United States is a corporation. It's a public trust, meaning it's an entity. It's something used to gather funds or assets. It's not a human being at the end of the day. Artificial. Now, this right here, you guys need to get this one buried in your brains. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. This article right here is important. Why is it important? Because it lets you know the territory that the United States has authority over. It lets you know. Let's begin. To exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such district not exceeding 10 miles square. Of course, today it's about, District of Columbia is about 70 miles square. You know, they've grown over the couple of decades, understandably. But not exceeding 10 miles square as made by session of one or more states and the acceptance of Congress become the seat of the government of the United States, which is why the capital, Washington, D.C.,
District of Columbia. That's what the D.C. stands for, if you didn't realize. And D.C. is the seat of the government of the United States Corporation. Any land within the district. Once again, they're letting you know a separation between the land and the district. You see here? Any land within the district. What about land without the district? You understand? That would be indigenous territories. Outside the district shall consist only of land owned by the federal government, meaning any land within the company of this District of Columbia shall consist only of land owned by the federal government, aka land owned by the company. And all other privately owned or non-federal public land shall be returned to the state that originally ceded the district. So what happens is, as a company, when the United States was formed, what it did was it went into the republic states or sovereign states at the time, which would be the several states, okay? The 50 states. And what the United States had to do, seeing how it only had that little bit of territory in the District of Columbia, not exceeding 10 miles square, they went to the sovereign states and they created a contract to buy land. Okay, so let's take New York for example. So the United States, coming out of the District of Columbia, they got in contact with New York State Republic. Now New York State Republic made a contract with the United States to buy land. So the United States was allowed to buy land within New York State Republic. Now people are thinking that New York is the land when New York is really the corporation. Right? The land is indigenous. The territory that is created on that land is the corporation known as New York, but New York is not the land. It's the territory made on paper to go with the land. You understand what I'm saying? So New York isn't real, it just exists on paper. But it is a republic. You understand what I'm saying? So the nations outside of the United States for indigenous peoples can exist, and they can have self-government. That's what that pyramid's all about, because we were here first. So we were already having government operating. You understand what I'm saying? And this is exactly pretty much what it's saying, that the United States had to get permission to buy land within those different states. So when you're in New York State Republic, but you're thinking you're in New York State Republic, but in all reality, you're in United States territory. And you're in United States territory only through contracts when you're not within the District of Columbia. So if you're outside the District of Columbia, outside of the 10 mile square,
and New York is outside of the District of Columbia, obviously. Okay, the only way you could find yourself within the United States territory is through contracts. State license, state ID. You understand what I'm saying? State, because you have New York State, and then people say State of New York. Those are two different things. New York State is the republic. State of New York is the territory that is owned by the District of Columbia. So you gotta start paying attention to how they say things. You know, Justice Department, Department of Justice. You understand what I'm saying? That of is a real big factor. You know, because you have America, then you have the United States of America. You understand? So by that of is letting you know that there's a separation, that there's a possessive thing happening. So we gotta start paying attention to titles and what things are named, because if we pay attention to the names, it'll tell you flat out what they are, and we just gotta take it for what it is. All right. So the United States bought territory, and that territory became part of the corporate estate. All right. And this is how we're finding ourselves within their shit, and we gotta abide by their bullshit rules because we don't realize we're agreeing to abide by them through contracts. And it's not our fault because they didn't inform us of these contracts. But now that we're aware of them, it's up to us now to correct shit. All right, because ain't no one gonna do it for us but us. We gotta do it. We're the savior we're looking for, so we gotta dig deep and get this work ASAP. So, and once again, if you want to go back, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, you know, go back in the video, pause, look this shit up on Google. It's all there. Now I want to start getting into some history. Now, I'm hoping that a lot of people do realize that this is in America, and this is not in Africa. Okay? This is known as the Pyramid of the Moon. This pyramid's located in Mexico. Alright? But this is in America. This pyramid is called the Pyramid of the Sun. Also in America. And I'm not gonna sit here and act like I know all the history about all these different buildings from back, you know, from front to end. I don't. There's a lot for me to learn on these things. I'm still in awe about these things, but I am aware that they exist and that there are other things that we can pinpoint, you know what I'm saying, that we've had historical effects on, especially in America, because everyone thinks that we were just taken from Africa and brought to America. When the case is, when Christopher Columbus came here, we were here already, and we already had these great things built. You understand what I'm saying? So this is not Africa, this is in America. So you need to look up all these great things that our ancestors left for us in America. We have history all over this planet, not just in Africa. I'm not saying that Africa isn't mom. Africa is mom. We come from mom, but we spread out after we left mom. You understand what I'm saying? So we can't ignore that other history too. So this right here is called the Street of the Dead of Teotihuacan. I gotta get this word right. I'm still getting accustomed to saying it, but Teotihuacan, which is the indigenous name of the people known as the Olmecs, which is not their indigenous name. That is a name given to them by Europeans. You know, which is a common pattern of names being taken and different names being applied to people that they didn't call themselves. Alright, so if you want to ever talk about the Olmec people or the Mayan people, the indigenous name of those people is Teotihuacan. Those are what their ancestral names are. So when you want to call on those ancestors, you got to call them by their names. Because their names have power.
That's why they changed their names. Why would Europeans change our names if our names didn't have power? You understand? So we got to reclaim that power in our names. And that's also a big thing when it comes to nationalizing, because now you're reclaiming a name and you're giving that name a meaning that means something to you, and therefore giving it a power. You're giving yourself a power once again.
That's what that's about. That's a spiritual type of thing, man. You guys got to get into that. Now this one is called El Castillo, aka the castle. This one rises 79 feet above the main plaza of the ancient Maya city of Chichen Itza in Mexico, founded in AD 600. So we have a lot of history going back, and we have history going even further back. But my whole point about these pictures is just to bring the awareness to the fact that Africa isn't the only place that we've left great history and great works behind. So like I said, we need to pay attention to everything, not just Africa. But I'm not saying to forget Africa. Keep our hearts and our minds in Africa, but we, at the same time, we can't ignore the works that we've done after leaving Africa. That would be foolish. Especially if you live in North America. Why the hell would you ignore the history of America if you live in America? Granted, you should want to learn everything in Africa, but right now we're in America, so you got to start home first. You understand? You got to start where you at, and then you gotta bring yourself back home. So pretty much the thing behind that is we have history in America. You guys need to get on that. There's pyramids all over America, older than the ones in Egypt and in Africa. Get it right. Now, this point right here, I want to be very clear. Very clear. As clear as I can possibly be on these 5 very distinct points right here. We're going to start with one. America. America is a continent. America is a landmass. Reason why we are called Americans, okay, is because we are living on that landmass currently. Okay? So what I'm saying is, the continent doesn't define the people. Because the same way you can say Africa, and everyone who comes from Africa, you call them Africans, but everything gets more specific, because within Africa there's about 53 different nations. You understand what I'm saying? So if you're gonna say Africa, now you gotta get into, okay, now which nation in Africa are you from? It doesn't just stop at Africa. So Africans, Americans is vague. Why? Because it only defines the landmass. So by saying America, I'm American, you ain't saying shit. It's vague. Okay, you're American. Now which nation or tribe or family that has history in America are you from? And this is why I go down to my second point here, which is why Americans, true Americans, are nationals of African descent. Because if you look up in the 1836 Webster's Dictionary, you will clearly see that Americans are Aboriginal, Aboriginal race, copper colored, right? Of various, pretty much various tones of copper color. And if you don't know what copper color is, look at a penny. A penny's copper. Okay? And there's a reason too why Abraham's face is on that penny. And why they got him facing the left, which is a signal for traitor. But do some history on Abraham. There's a reason why his face is on that one. Wink, wink. You know what I'm saying? But real Americans are people of copper complexion. So dark-skinned people, melanated people are true Americans, and they had nationalities. You know what I'm saying? They came from different families, different tribes. Different tribes. Bottom line. So a true American was a national of a tribe living on the landmass of the continent known as America. That's what makes you a true American. So if you don't have a nationality to coincide with the landmass you're living on, then you can't be American. You can't be a true American. You understand what I'm saying? For instance, if you say you're American, then I'm going to ask you, okay, cool, where are you from? There's a ton of countries in America. Which part of America are you from? Now, my ancestry comes from Haiti. So guess what? I'm gonna say I'm a Haitian American. Right? But you can see I am American, but now you can trace my family lineage back to Haiti. You understand what I'm saying?
So you can't just be American or African. You gotta go back to a tribe, a people. Now, nationals. Nationals live according to Constitution and treaties. So we gotta get back into the constitutional fold of government. And by being in the constitutional fold of government, we can enforce certain laws and rights that we weren't aware that we could enforce because we were robbed of the fact that we got the power. Okay? But as nationals, we have to abide by constitutional law and by treaties, meaning we have to be in honor. We gotta honor our ancestors. We can't be in dishonor. Alright? And this right here, these two things right here are just a big distraction that people are not, people want to play, they get sucked into the game, but at the end of the day, it's a big distraction. The Republican, oh, are you a Republican or are you a Democrat? Yo, both parties are getting paid by the same boss, the corporate U.S. office. They're both getting paid by the same boss, the corporate U.S. office. Both are entities of the United States, which is not America. Artificial. Got it? And this will be my last slide here. This will be the conclusion of part 3. You understand what I'm saying? Part 4 will be coming up real soon. Appreciate the love and support that the family is giving. Please keep it coming. You know what I mean? You guys are giving me some real inspiration to keep this thing going, so I appreciate the love once again. Now, let's break this down real quick. The United States of America, like I said once again, you see this bird here? This is where you see all the corporate CEOs or whatever speak under. All the presidents, they spoken under this bird here. You've never seen any United States official speak under this guy here. Have you ever seen anyone speak under this pyramid? No, because they can't speak under this pyramid, because the pyramid doesn't belong to them. This pyramid is a representation of the indigenous peoples here and their government that was already established, thus giving authority to the corporate entity to do business on the indigenous land of this government, aka the melanated people, the copper-colored people. You understand what I'm saying? So they're telling you right here on the dollar bill. Look at this, the Great Seal. The Great Seal. This pyramid here is the Great Seal of the United States. The Great Seal of the United States. When you think about the United States, this is the Great Seal. Our ancestors are the Great Seal. We are the Great Seal of the United States. We give this guy their power. You understand what I'm saying? So we just gotta break that down, family. It just, it'll come with studying, and just becoming more and more familiar with the material. But this shit is not hard, and this is real common sense, because at the end of the day, the United States is a company. If you don't remember anything else, just get it through your brain that the United States is a company. They are not the land. They are not the land. Alright, thanks family. Peace once again. I'll see y'all for the next video. Stay tuned. Peace.